we are moving on to the most important segment of the day. It's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Andrew Harding. Mr. Andrew Harding, accounting at the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, the unified voice of the American Institute of CPAs, and the Chartered Institute of Management Accounts. Mr. Andrew leads all management accounting activities for the association, develops plans and strategies, manage leaderships, and deliver result of members. Mr. Andrew has a passion for the management accounting and how the association supports successful business and careers across the world. He is also council member of the International Integrated Reporting Council, which now operates within the border governance framework of the IFRS Foundation and sits on the UK's Financial Reporting Council Stakeholder Insight Group. Sir, your presence is highly honored to us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us to welcome and invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Andrew Harding, to deliver his keynote regarding future finance.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for such a warm welcome. I arrived at, I think I landed around midnight last night, and I thought, usual journey in from the airport. It's all a bit dark. I woke up this morning and I looked out from my hotel room over this city and thought, wow. The last time I was here was 2 years ago, and I think sometimes when you live in a place, you see incremental change. When I came here after 2 years, it's a stunning change. What a great job! What a great job the country's doing, and in particular, what a great job Bank of Ceylon is doing in supporting not only the recovery of the economy, but also the re-emergence of one of the most vibrant economies in Asia. It's fantastic. It's fantastic to see. Fantastic to see that. I'm going to be talking about the future of finance, where we're going, in particular, where CIMA is going on that journey. As you saw from the earlier video, this year is 60 years of CIMA in Sri Lanka. And over that 60 years, we've provided thousands and thousands of Sri Lankans with career opportunities that have taken them not just in this country, but also across the globe, and that's something which we're committed to continue to do as we go through the coming years. Let's have a look at where the world is going. Where is the world going? It seems to be we don't know from one day to the next what's going to be happening. But let's just have a look at some of the biggest things. We have economic volatility, we have geopolitics. We see Sri Lanka living with that, balancing the great influential powers of US, China, India. How we navigate all of that. We have trades and tariffs. Everywhere I go, everybody just says, "Will Trump just make up his mind?" It's the uncertainty that kills us. You want to put a tariff on us? Fine, do it. But just let us know what it's going to be and let us work through that. The constant to and fro is really, really hard work. But for us as management accountants, it's something we deal with, something we work with. Throughout COVID, we learned, and our businesses learned, how we're able to reforecast like that. We can develop scenarios, we can develop plans, we help our businesses to survive. In 2020, our businesses lent on us like they have never ever done before, and they learnt the true value of what we bring. In the words of one CFO, my ACCA people did the 2019 annual report. Me and the CIMA team kept the business going in 2020, and we set out the plans for success in 2021 and beyond. And that's what we do. That's the difference that we make as management accountants. Having a look at other things that are moving along, we obviously have technology, and we can't forget that. Technology in particular, at the moment, it's AI. 5 years ago, it was blockchain. 12 years ago, it was big data. No one talks about big data anymore, because big data was nonsense anyway. It was just a lot of data, and all you did was use a computer to apply statistical techniques that you'd learnt when you were 16 years old at school studying maths. All of these things are coming on, all these things are changing, and I wouldn't mind betting in 10 years' time we don't talk about artificial intelligence, because it's just a tool. It's another tool that we use. Artificial intelligence. Can anyone tell me what year artificial intelligence first became available in the world? Does anyone want to throw out a number to me? I'm not going to ask Venkat and Irene because they've heard me do this presentation 3 times already. Okay, how many of you think it was 2022? 2019? 2010? We can keep going back and back and back. In actual fact, it was 1948. That was when the first artificial intelligence became available. Of course, as with all things, what happens is it becomes smaller, cheaper, faster, and capacity grows and grows and grows until it becomes something which is genuinely useful to us. And that's what we have. That's what we have today with generative AI, and that's what we're going to be having going forward as we have agentic AI coming in. I know the word agentic AI. I have to confess I haven't got a clue what it really means. I'm still getting to terms with generative AI, but the people who work in AI, they've already moved on. What else do we have? We have growth. How's growth going? Well, what have we got growth in Sri Lanka at the moment? 5%. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. If we had 5% in the UK, we'd declare a month of public holidays. We breathe a sigh of relief when we hear growth is 1%. So 5% is great. And across this part of the world, 5% puts you in a pretty good place. You can see China is bumping along at 5%. No longer the super growth which it has achieved in the past. Perhaps not surprising. The easy growth is where you can get very fast growth. If you have a huge gap, then it's very quick to fill that gap. The more you grow, the more difficult that becomes. Unless you're the US, who seem to be able to, they've got something magic which just enables them to push. But as we look at that, you can see India dropping 7.5% down to 5.9%, and you can see the rest of Asia dropping 4.3 to 3.8. So Sri Lanka is well above that. And just a couple of things on this. When you look at these numbers, everyone goes, "Oh, look at China; it's gone flat." Well, 5% is still great. Look at India; it's above China. Wow. Well, India was way behind China for over 20 years. If you think India is going to catch China anytime soon, wake up and smell the coffee. India's got a lot of many years of high percentage points of growth before it gets close to where China is. China's growth started in the 1990s. India's is only 5 years or 6 years. So that's our world. Also, the way we think about our businesses has changed. Go back to 10, 15 years ago. We thought in terms of costs and revenues, and that was it. A lot of data at that time said, our financial reporting system's broken. The value of our companies is actually only 10% of it's represented on our balance sheets. What's the rest of it? It's not just about income and revenues. In fact, very little of it is. It's about a lot of other things. It's about our structure, our cultures. It's about how we manage and develop our strategies, our processes, the resources and relationships that we have, and ultimately the value proposition to our customers. All of these things start to come in and play on what we do in finance. Because what we do, in particular what we do at CIMA, what we do as management accountants, is we provide the information which involves business leaders, boards, to take the right decisions at the right time for the success of that business. If we're just working on that little bit which tells us 10% of our company's value, we're not going to be very helpful. So our scorecards are developing, they're broadening. The first piece of this you saw was the balance scorecard, way back in the early 1990s. But this has now become much more sophisticated as we start to look at information. What I will always say is, CIMA was created in 1919, originally founded by the chairman of Unilever at that time, because his accountants weren't giving him what he needed. He said he wanted information which tells him how his business is doing today, and to help him make sure it works as well as possible tomorrow, next week, next year. That's our route. We've always measured more than the money, and we continue to do that as we continue to work with this new model. Other things that are shifting, we see shifts in time horizon management. That very company, Unilever, probably almost 10 years ago now, said to the New York Stock Exchange, we're not going to do quarterly reporting anymore. It drives the wrong behaviors. The New York Stock Exchange said quarterly reporting is a listing requirement. And they said, well, we're not going to do it. What are you going to do? Throw us off your exchange? Unilever moved ahead not doing quarterly reporting because it believed time horizons are longer than that. And that's what we start to talk about when we talk about our businesses, when we think about our businesses. It's about how we're successful next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. How do we make sure we're here for the long haul? That's how we benefit all of our stakeholders, our customers, our people, the countries which we operate in, not just our shareholders. It's also how we best benefit our shareholders. Our shareholders should be there for the long-term interests of our company. Businesses like Unilever say we're not interested in shareholders who think this is a casino. If they want to invest, they're investing in the business. They're not investing in the potential to make a quick buck in 48 hours' time. Other stuff we're seeing going on, capital management. You heard in the intro, I'm a member of council of the International Integrated Reporting Committee, or Integrated Reporting Council, sorry. That introduced this concept of integrated reporting, where there are more than one capital. It's not just about financial capital. We have 6 capitals. That goes beyond financial. It includes human capital, it includes relationship capital, and natural capital, which is where a lot of people believe that sustainability is based. I'm going to talk a little bit more about sustainability later on, because I don't think it is just about natural capital. And finally, the thing we have here, business model management, understanding how our business works. This ability to be systems thinkers. We understand who all of our stakeholders are. We understand the connectivities within our business. We understand what external drivers we face. We understand how we manage those, what our risks are, blah, 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 going forward. So all of that starts to fall into our work as accountants. We're no longer the people who sit in the back office adding things up and producing reports. We're much more important than that. Let's have a look at the evolution of accounting and finance technology. I flew here from Singapore yesterday. In my hotel room in Singapore, on the wall was an abacus. And it says underneath it, this is the instrument of trust on which this economy was born. The abacus has been around for about 3,000 years. I think the Chinese and the Egyptians can't quite agree on who invented it, but the Chinese civilization sustained a lot more than the Egyptian did, so I think the Chinese can grab ownership of it. But until 1930s, that was our tool. It lasted thousands of years. In the 1930s, we had the first accounting machines. In 1935, CIMA's magazine, what's now FM magazine, cover story, accounting machines, is this the death of accounting? It wasn't the death of accounting. It empowered us. And you can see all of these other things coming on. In the 1950s, you see the first computers coming on board. The first computers are a little earlier than that. That's why the first artificial intelligence is a little earlier than that. But you start to see these things coming through. 1970s, you see introduction of spreadsheets. I can't believe it's that long ago. I'll let you into a secret. 1977, I did my O-level exams in the UK. I was the first, me and my classmates were the first school year that were allowed to use electronic calculators in the maths exam. Everyone thought this was terrible. How are you letting these children do this? I went on to become the first generation of accountants who can't add up. I was told that when I started work. You're not a proper accountant. You're never going to make it. You can't add up. You've been using this Casio machine all your time. Well, it hasn't really bothered me. And I think most of those people who told me I can't add up are long retired, and probably most of them aren't even here anymore. But things change. Things that were unthinkable. Things that are unthinkable to us today will be normal in a very short period of time. And I think what you can see from here is the acceleration of this stuff. A handheld pocket calculator was fantastic in its day. I don't know when I last saw one. Actually, I do. I threw out a whole load of stuff from home, and there were about 10 of them in the box, all broken and hopeless. But everything changes, and it changes faster and faster and faster. The only thing we know about change is it will never be as slow in the future as it is today. That can be frightening. That can be exciting. I think it's exciting. I think the work of an accountant, the work of finance people today, is infinitely more exciting than the profession which I joined. I think it's more satisfying. I think it's a much better career. AI. Let's have a look at what AI is really going to do for us. Is it going to take our jobs? Is it going to kill the accounting profession? No, it's not. Will AI take your job? No. An accountant who can use AI might take your job if you can't. And that's where it's important. It becomes a tool for us. It's reckoned that 170 million new jobs will be created in the next 5 years by AI. 170 million. That can give every person in this country a job multiple times over. Huge opportunity, huge potential. And what we know is almost all businesses are already using AI. Sometimes you're using it without even knowing it, because it's just becoming the normal. Every country in the world has a strategy for AI, and Sri Lanka is not left behind in that. The digitization of the economy is critical. It's for efficiency, it's for flexibility, it's for integrity and trust. All of these things can make this happen. And here at Bank of Ceylon, you're central to that drive for this economy. In terms of what we can do in finance. What should we be doing with AI? Well, firstly, we should understand what the potential is for it. We shouldn't be seeing it as a cost. We should be looking at what it can do for us. How can it change jobs? How can it change what we do? How can it change the services we give to our customers? Let's bring it into our finance operations. How many of you know of a Chinese company called Baidu? Anybody? Baidu is the Chinese Google. Their CFO is one of our members. In April 2024, I sat down with him and I said, "What are you doing with AI?" And he said an awful lot. He said, "My 30th of June reports this year, the historic part of the report will be entirely generated by AI." I said, "How many people are you laying off?" He said, "None, I'm recruiting. Because my forward-looking information is going to be better than ever. Less than 50% of my forward-looking information is going to be financial. We're going to be pulling in data from all multiple different sources, enabling us to have a genuine picture of the world, our place in the world, our opportunities, and how we take that forward." He's able to do that because AI means he can shift resources from his historic financial reporting to the forward-thinking, modeling, reporting, scenario planning, and generation of strategic options. So that's how AI starts to move us. I'm bouncing around a little here. Sustainability. You've won awards here at Bank of Ceylon for sustainability. We've done some research on sustainability. Essentially, it tells us everywhere in the world and companies across the world are working on this. Even in the United States, where you have a 70-year-old president who presumably is not sustainable himself, who thinks it's nonsense. But American corporations are doing it, partly because there's a state here called California. If California was a country, it would be part of G7. It's that big, it's that important. It means every American business has to do what California does. California does sustainability. But, there's a big but here. I want us to think about sustainability differently. Out on the streets, in the media, people think about sustainability being, it's all about rainforests. It's all about biodiversity. It's all about pollution. It's all about oceans. That's just one part of it. That's just one of those 6 capitals. For us as a business, why do we do sustainability? Well, there's one part that says all of those nice things the media think about sustainability is great because our customers want that. And if we're a dirty company, our customers won't want our products. It damages our reputation. But it's about much, much more than that. If you look at the whole sustainability piece, if you look at the IFRS S1 statement, that's about much, much more. It's actually about business resilience. It's about long-term business success. It's about those sorts of things that Unilever was thinking about when it told the New York Stock Exchange it wasn't going to do quarterly reporting. It's about how do we ensure our businesses are successful today, 5 years from now, 10, 20 years from now. How do we manage our resources, our relationships to make sure that happens? That's what sustainability is all about, and that's why we do it. That's why we believe in it, and that's why, as a skill, it's hugely valuable, and it's well worth learning. If you're doing your continuing professional development, it's the kind of topic that you need to be picking up on. AI is a tool that you use. The sustainability piece is knowledge that you can deploy using AI, perhaps. So, well, look, I've kind of covered this already. I'm not going to talk you through the diagram. If any of you want these slides, we're very happy to make them available to you. The only thing I would say is, please, whenever you use them, please credit us. Don't try and claim them as your own work. But you're very free to use them. What we have seen over time is the way in which the profession has changed. For over 10 years now, I've been saying we've been moving from being scorekeepers to storytellers. Sometimes people think that's great. Sometimes people think Andrew's gone mad. But that's really what it's all about. That's where we've gone to. 10 years ago, I tried to explain this to a class at an Indian university in, I think it was Mumbai, probably. And they all looked at me. And I said, right, you're watching cricket. What would you rather do? Would you rather be in the scoreboard turning the handle? Or would you rather be in the TV commentary box telling everybody what's going on, blah, blah? And go, oh, I'd rather be in the TV commentary box. That's where we've gone. We've gone from turning that scoreboard over to sitting in the commentary box, describing what's happening and also saying, this is how we think it's going to happen. And these are the changes that could be made to make it happen well and to get the right results for us. That's how we move. In terms of our world, in terms of the words that we use, we've gone from being scorekeepers. We've been described as trusted advisors. Today, we're very often described as business partners. The role of finance business partner, probably something which people didn't talk very much about 10 years ago. Today, it's commonplace. Finance has come out of the back office. It now sits alongside business. It's moved from being the function which said no to the function which says we know how. That's what we do. We become experts in creating value, how we can ensure long-term business success, how we ensure our businesses are valuable. And going forward, AI will help us become genuine futurists. Futurists, after all, just show you how the world is likely to look. The more and more data you can put into that, the clearer that vision of the future can become. So what do CFOs care about most? What are they most worried about today? Are they most worried about AI? It's the second thing they're most worried about. The top thing they're most worried about is skills. 90% of CFOs we talk to tell us that their current finance teams do not have the skills needed to take them through the digital transformation and the incorporation of artificial intelligence into what they need to do. And there are not enough young people coming into the workforce with that knowledge to make up the gap. And even if there were enough people, they don't have the experience to help do that. So there's a huge need for relearning, forgetting about some of the old skills that we had, and embracing this new world, particularly if we're going to seize the potential. And the businesses who are able to do that, the businesses who win this war for talent, are going to be the ones who succeed. You can win the war for talent not by going out and buying it. You have a huge amount of talent within your businesses, and you can win the war for talent by developing what you have. And that's probably faster, cheaper, and more reliable than going out and hiring. There's nothing more risky in business than hiring. And artificial intelligence doesn't really help you de-risk that. People you know, who you can train and develop, that starts to de-risk it. So, lots and lots of things changing. Our traditional finance model used to be a big a big pyramid. Along the bottom, we used to come into the profession, we used to do all that horrible, boring work. Well, 15 years ago, a lot of that was taken out by shared service centres. Then it was automated, now it's being done by AI. Traditionally now careers tend to start here. Much more is expected of people. That basic experience, which I think is the equivalent to those old men who used to tell me I had to be able to add up. And if I had a spare hour, what I should do is take the telephone directory and add up the numbers in the telephone directory. I'm serious. That used to be something people did in London. That was something accountants were expected to do at lunchtime. Add up the telephone directory. Now we don't even have telephone directories. But what we see is a need to build these things, these experiences, into the way in which we train, the way in which we qualify, the way in which we develop people. At CIMA, we have long used case studies as tests of competence. After all, that's all exams are. Exams were originally there to test somebody's ability. When they were when you write them in pencil and paper, they probably weren't a particularly good test. But technology has helped us develop and to build tests which are a much better test of your ability to do the job. To do the job that you're going to be paid to do, that you're going to be recruited to do. So that's the way in which we're moving. We had a big shift at CIMA in 2015 when we moved all our exams onto computer. A lot of resistance to that in some parts. Today, I don't think we could imagine not doing it on computer, because that's how we work. We don't work with pencil and paper. We don't have those big sheets of paper that you unfold and add across and add down and all gone. What we have now is a finance professional who has some deep technical knowledge. That changes over time. Almost nothing that I learned as a training accountant is relevant today. Debits are still on the left, credits are still on the right. That's at the heart of all the robotic transactions as well, so that's fine, that's still useful. Everything else is gone. Wasted my time. And what we see now is, what I see now, I'll talk to CFOs and I'll say, if it's a Friday, what are you doing for the weekend? Someone will say, oh, I'm going to play golf, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a golfer. I think golf's boring. But others will say, well, Sunday, I'm doing an online program. Okay, what's that? I said, well, we've got a project starting. I need to very quickly get some deep expertise because I'm going to have to lead that project. I said, how often do you do that? Oh, 2 or 3 times a year. And this idea of acquiring deep knowledge quickly for a particular purpose, and then being brave enough to say, I'm going to discard that and I'm going to move on to the next thing, is how we're starting to see learning, how we're starting to see development. What starts to differentiate us and make us special are these things across the top. The bar at the cross of the T, our ability to lead, our ability to work with people, our ability to think, our ability to think strategically, our ability to think systematically, our ability to think critically. All of these things make us special as individuals. You don't get jobs today because of that. That's expected. You get jobs today because of what you can do at the top. And look here, we see leadership. It's about communication. It's about telling stories. What's important about storytelling? People remember stories. They don't remember spreadsheets. Stories bring things to life. They're convincing, they're persuasive, and that's why we do it. And then up here we have our digital skills. That's never going to disappear. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert coder. But you have to understand what it's all about, and you have to be able to manage these experts. If you don't understand what they do, you can't manage them. But you don't have to be able to do what they do. It's a bit like, driving a car. You don't have to be a mechanic to drive a car. You don't have to have worked on an assembly line to drive a car. But there's an awful lot that you have to do to be able to drive a car. So, lots and lots of change. What do we need to be able to do? We need to be expert thinkers, but that expertise shifts and shifts and changes. We need to be critical thinkers. We need to be systems thinkers. We need to be strategic thinkers. It's all about now what's going on in here. Those are the things that make things different. This stuff, AI can mimic, but it can't actually do that thinking. It doesn't have agility. It's only able to look at the past. It's not able to be creative in the same way that we are. What AI will be able to do, and this is what you see all these singers very worried about and these composers, AI will be able to write you a perfect Beatles song. That's fantastic. When did the Beatles last write a song? 1969. So AI can recreate the past. What it can't do is something really innovative and say, this is going to be the music of 2030. So, where does this take us? Where does this take us with CIMA? Well, last month we announced our new syllabus. Our new syllabus in itself isn't particularly interesting, I don't think. What it does, it says, hey, we're going to bring in a bit more on sustainability around S1 and S2. And guess what? We're going to bring in AI. Well, what a surprise. If we weren't doing that, we'd look like we're teaching people the history of accounting rather than accounting for the future and for the jobs they're going to be doing. But what we are bringing into this, and what we believe we're able to bring into this, is now testing of that ability to think and to operate strategically, to think systematically. Systems thinkers see something here and they go, it's going to do that over there. And also this ability to be critical thinkers. We think our case studies today, for the first time, will be able to test critical thinking. Many schools try to teach critical thinking with very little success, but educationalists believe that critical thinking can be taught if it's done in context. And we believe it can be tested in context. And so that context is our case studies. And our case studies ask candidates to adopt a role. They don't say answer this question. They say, today you are a finance manager. You've been given a bundle of data several weeks ago, which hopefully you know your way around, and you then get a series of tasks generated for you. You get a memo from Chief Executive. I want to know this, 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 and this. Please advise. I need it in 20 minutes. That triggers your task. And that's how it works. We asked one CFO to do the top-level strategic case study for us. After he'd done it, I said to him, what was it like? He said, can I be honest with you? I said, yeah, that's why we showed it to you. He said, it was like a very, very busy morning at work. And we thought, right, we've nailed it. Because that's what we want it to be. Simulation is what it's all about. If you look at what they do for doctors, for people in the military who use these high-functioning, expensive systems, it's all airline pilots, it's all about simulations. Because the kit they're using, the things they're doing, if they get it wrong, they're going to kill people. You're not going to kill anybody, I hope. But your decisions are important to your companies. So the way we train and test you now is moving more and more and more onto this world of simulations, where we actually get people to work in as close to a real life environment as we possibly can. Some people say to me, "Oh, Andrew, CIMA's so difficult." I go, well, CIMA's so much more difficult than ACCA. I used to work for ACCA, so I know how these things work. CIMA pass rates are actually higher than ACCA. One thing you can't do, though, with CIMA is you can't stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning before the exam with your textbooks and learn things. What helps you is to go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up feeling alert and able to think, because that's all we ask you to do. We ask you to apply your thinking, apply your mind, and to solve problems. That's what we are. We solve problems and we tell stories to ensure that our businesses adopt our solutions to give them the best long-term value and success. So that is where we are. CGMA takes you places. We have a royal charter. It takes you all the way from Buckingham Palace, London, to the most senior finance positions in the world's greatest businesses. Thank you all very, very much. It's been great to speak to you this morning.